Hi and welcome to the second part of the electronic reporting from scratch series, where we're going to see how to export the data directly from the F&O tables into XML format. So this is, as I said, the second part. The first part we saw how to import a text file, and in this part, as a complement of the other one, we are going to learn the particularities of the XML. Also, we are going to learn how electronic reporting actually works in the opposite direction and the differences, and also a few tricks that will be like enable, disable, and some parts of the XML, etc. So I hope you enjoy watching this video as much as I enjoyed editing and preparing it for you. So yeah, let's go. So here we are, welcome, and yeah, basically we are going to export. So it's this direction in the flow. We are going to start into the application data, that is the F&O tables, and map them with our model, that it's our data contract. It's an empty structure that we are going to fulfill with, or to populate with directly with the data into the F&O tables, and send it to the format where we are going to give obviously format to our file, that will be in this case an XML, because in the other example we worked with TXT, and I think there are some differences. And for me, XML it's easier, but it's good to see the different formats. Maybe in the future we can see Excel or other formats. So let's go directly to it. Basically, what we have, or the information we have, is the same we used in the previous video about importing, but now we are going the opposite direction. And so this is basically the inner join that we expect to, that we expect to send in our export file in the XML. Okay. So you can see that basically it's a header and line structure. It's easy. So yeah, let's start. First thing, same we did with the export example. The first thing is create our model. It's a root, and we're going to say we're going to call it XML export, for example, or XML export model. Yes, create configuration, and yeah, basically what we are going to, or the structure we are going to have is header and line. So let's start with a header. This is going to be sorry, the first thing was the model, and after that we create the model. So for example, model, and now we create a record list that will be the header, and a record list that will be the lines. But let me first create the fields. It's going to be ID or header ID, maybe header ID. Okay. Header name. Okay. And now we create the lines. So the lines will be a record list lines. Okay. And in the lines we have a string field and an integer field. So let's create them. Field int. And remember, we can go with sibling of an active node, so we don't have to change the cursor each time to the node, to the parent node. And here it's field string. That's it. This is our model. Once we have our model, we are going to create our model mapping. That is how we are going to populate our model directly with the F&O tables. Note that this object, the map model to data source, in the other example was basically the opposite direction. So here in the other example we had to destination because it was from FNO tables to from the model to FNO tables. But here we have to model because it's going to go from the tables to the model that later on will populate the format. We have to select the definition we have, save, and designer. Let's create our map model to the data source. So here what we got is the model in the right path, and it's basically empty. And what we are going to do now is to query all the information and populate it. So how do we do that? We need to create the table records that are going to be our header and lines. So table ftd header, good, and for example we call it header. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. And now the lines. But I think if I click add with this, with the cursor here, it's going to add them inside that, but we don't want that because those are raw queries that will select all the records into the tables. So we are going to put them at the master node level, lines, and so as I was saying, those are not filtered. So if basically we do that, let's do the example. I think it's going to be more didactic to see it than if I say it and you have to imagine it. So if we do like that, that could be our first thing, or our first thought. It won't work. Like, it's going to export the information, but it's going to do like if we do a bad join or not joining the thing at all. If we do that like this, this is basically to do the join but not link not using the relation, but putting a condition that it's going to be always true. It is going to go for the first record into the header table and combine it with all the lines, and the same with the second. So it's not the goal. In fact, it would be an error. We should get this using the relation. So basically this is not related at all. And let's see the result. If we do that and that, we have now our model mapped with the tables. But as there's no filter in the lines, let's say, yeah, it's going to do this. Like the line 3, the line 4, it's for header 2, for example, and here we have the line 4 with header 1. So yeah, it's awful this. Let me, yep. So let's fix this using one thing that it's very useful and like versatile. It's the calculated field. We can add a calculated field behind the header level, like inside the level. Inside the header. So let's call it calculated field lines, and it's going to be basically we are going to get the lines and filter all the lines by the current header. So that would be like to doing the virtual relationship between them. So for each header record, we are going to filter the proper lines, and we can do it using the function where that it filters input list with a specified condition. So we are going to filter the lines. Note that I click here and add function and click here and add data source. But if, for example, if I want to add the data source before the where, it doesn't work. So always add it to the end. It's quite annoying, this user interface. So yeah, we are going to filter the lines, and the condition will be that those lines, the header ID, should be the same that the current record. That note that the @ sign is the header, so header.id. It's going to do the trick. Save. It's everything good because there's no complaining here. Okay, and here we have the new calculated field, and if we, instead of using the raw record list that we added here, we use this filtered one. Yes, and we don't have to change those, because changing the parent node, it's going to change this reference here, and so everything is going to work fine now. Save, and let's try it again. Run. Okay, and magic, it works fine. So we have now the model fulfilled with the correct data. So now let's give format to this model. Let's give format to this model. How? Well, creating a format. So first we have to complete the model to be able to use it for our new format that we are going to create right now. Let's go for it, create format, and it's XML, export format. You know, I don't like to put descriptions to the things. Now I do, but not for my posts and yeah, things like that. Yeah, XML supports data input. Well, if you saw the video with the importing process, you'll see that there we click that. But of course now we are exporting, so if we click that, we are bad. But when you don't click it, you can select the model, and that's it. Let's create the format. So a few considerations here. In the other example, when it was a text file, we used to use sequences to organize our things and to get the information and split the information and things like that. Here the sequences are not very useful, but the XML elements. We are going to structure our information with XML elements. It's very intuitive because the structure will be the same as the format will have, as the format of the file that we are going to generate, like the XML structure. So yeah, the first thing is to create the XML element, like the root. Let's call it XML root. Yep, okay. And now we're going to create the header. Or header records maybe. Should it be mandatory? Probably yes, because, or no, maybe we don't have any record and we don't want to. Maybe what we can do is to put headers. Headers, that it's going to be exactly one, and there we are going to put the header records. So here, header records, and this can be or not. This can be like 0 or many, because we can have more than one record. And here we are going to add ID and name, but we don't, or we shouldn't add, for example, the ID as a text string, because that means that there will be not a specific node for our ID. So what we are going to do is to create the XML element for the ID, call it ID. It's going to be mandatory, and the explicitity, it's exactly one. Okay, it's going to be mandatory basically because we need to have an ID for our XML for our header record. And once we have the XML element that will host our value, then we add the value. In this case, it's a string value, and it's I like to call them value and probably the data type, but we could put only value because, like, it is already explained in the element that it's the ID. So yeah, I have a friend here. Yeah. So next thing would be to add the name of our header, and this name is not mandatory, not like we cannot, or we could put the multiplicity or not. It's 01 basically, yeah. And this name should have, oh sorry, I put it as a string. No, it should be an XML element under the header records element. So name 01, okay, and this name, it's going to have the value inside. Now that we can put a specific value, like fixed value and other, we can limit the length and other things and do transformations. So that would be the header, and let's create the lines now. We are going to do the same. We are going to create a lines element that will be always there, and after that create the lines record that could be populated or not. So XML element lines, and it's going to be exactly one. And now we're going to add the line record that can be or not. So 0 or many, yeah. And once we have the line record, let's create the different two fields that they were line, string, and line integer, and let's create the values now. Let's value string, okay, and value integer. Okay, so now let's say like fulfill this format, this empty format, with a model that was populated in the model mapping before. So we can go here and create a map format to model to have, and here we can create more than one mapping, but also if we want to do it directly, we can here with the mapping. In the standard, you will find electronic reportings that does it both ways. Like some of them go for the map format specific objects for the mapping, and some of them goes directly with this mapping. So in the other example, we did it with a separate object. Here we're going to do it directly. It's faster directly and easier for me to demo here. So yeah, basically we're going to have, as you can see, this bind is completely direct because we did the logic, we did it earlier in the model in the model mapping. So yeah, it's easy. header record is going to be binded with our header, so we are going to have as many header records nodes as records in the header record list, and the same with the lines here. Yeah, so is this lines added inside, or maybe I did it wrong, because these lines should be inside those. But I think we can do this. Cut and paste. Yeah, now they are in the same. They are in the correct level. So lines, yes. And let's bind the ID and bind the header name and bind this. No, these lines are not this. It should be unbind. We should bind the line record, because this lines is going to be an element that will be always there, and it's going to be a multiplicity of 1 to 1. So we don't want to add to bind it to this record list with different multiplicity. We want to bind it with the line record here. So line record will be repeated as many times as record list in our lines node in the model. Value string and field integer here, bind, and that would be it. We have everything now, all the ingredients for our recipe. So let's see if we can. I think I have to complete it before testing it, and let's run it. Oh, error. Evaluating binding of format component XML root headers header records. The mandatory element with the name ID must be filled in. Okay, that's an error there. This is not filled in. It should be. Let's put it as no mandatory, and let's put this as mandatory. I think that will do the trick. Okay. And now let's run it. Okay. Now it worked. And that's it. We have. Let's go step by step. Like, we have the different line records here, the lines, header. Yeah. So we have the headers root, that it's basically have this. Yeah. Oh. Oh, sorry, I lost the page. So it's electronic reporting. Yes. Export model and export model format designer. Okay. So we have the headers, and it's 1-to-1 because there's always going to be here the headers, and now we have two headers because we have two records. So as this is binded to a record list, it works fine. And now we have the ID, that it's mandatory, and the name, for example. What would happen if this ID wasn't here? Well, let's see it. But we are going to see it with the name, okay? This is an extra piece of information that I am going to give to you. That's and it has to do with the enabled property here. So let's see it. Imagine I put the name as mandatory because I'm evil now. And let's clean some name. Update ftd hello table set name equals to this, where id equals 02. Yep. Okay, and now we don't have the name here. So what happens is if I put the name as mandatory, basically, as we don't have the name now, if I put it to mandatory, I have to complete before. If I run it, oh, error. Why? Because it's mandatory, the name, and value string must be filled in this. So what happens if I don't put it as mandatory, but it's empty? Well, let's see it other way. Like, imagine that the requirement is that we want to show the name, but only if a specific condition is matched, or if it's at least if it's not empty. So here we have this enabled that we can put in this node. So if this node, if the value is empty, we are not showing the node. So if we do that, even if the value string is mandatory and it's empty, it won't throw the error because this name won't be enabled. Let's do it. We have to put here it's the header name. So if header name is that should return false when it's empty. So is this different than this? Save. Yeah, if you don't know if it, for example, if I put this, it's going to complain here. So yeah, this is the good one. And now it should work without the error and without showing the name in this specific record 2 for the header. Okay. Yeah, here you are. So if I don't do anything, like if I don't put it mandatory and I don't put the enable here at this level, it's going to show the element, the XML element, but it's going to show it empty. So that's allowing me to explain what is the enable property for. Here you are, the name. Okay, so this name wasn't here when I put the enable property to different to empty. I think that's it. That's all I wanted to show in this video. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your attention, and until next time. See you.